6 o'clock by mine. All right, let's get us started.
Okay, so the September meeting is called to order. Do I have to ask for a second or we can roll?
No, you
We're
go.
just rolling. We do attendance?
Yep,
All
that's
right,
good. Sam
got
Ash,
good attendance.
yep, Sam Ashbaugh. Here. Marty Basic,
Here.
Adam Bowman.
Here.
Terry Johnson,
Yes, sir.
Tom Province,
Here.
Andrew Rencley,
Here.
Kevin Repcheck,
Here.
Jason Ruggles will be late. He will be coming. Elaine Vincent is not here yet.
He's outside.
Okay, so.
Better offer on the sidewalks.
Just on the sidewalk.
He's out there getting lantern flies.
And there he is.
There he is.
1 minute to spare. 1 minute. Well,
We started with that.
sorry by the computer clock, so. Yeah,
Sorry.
You're good. You are in attendance, sir.
I see the chair.
Everybody,
Good. How are you?
I didn't pay to park, so this is going to be a costly meeting.
We don't conform to our six. That wasn't on camera, was it? No.
It was like, this is.
If you double parked out there, who knows? You mean, you probably just.
I was getting food from the topo.
Well, in that case, you could just park in the street,
Yeah.
take up a lane.
Anyway, where were we? I'm sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt.
Meeting minutes. So we have, did everybody get a chance to review the meeting minutes from August? Carrie did find a correction. She was not at the meeting. So we will remove that correction from the meeting. Hi, Lane. So do I have a motion for that? Motion.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Asks. Okay, citizens' comments. I guess you can take over from here. Sorry.
Was anybody on it? Did anybody log in? So anybody's present? Okay, so no citizen comments.
That's our IT folks. So.
Got it. Hello, Sandy. Okay, no other reports other than the discussion that we've had, so we can move to that into the old business section. Mission liaison report.
He's not here.
Everybody's present,
He's not
so
here, yeah.
that's fine. We'll skip to that. So we'll skip ahead to number 5, staff.
Yeah, so the only thing I have to update the board on, we're in the thick of budget right now, so, we'll be reviewing with the manager this month. We went over that timeline, I believe, in one of the first meetings of kind of how budget rolls here. So we reviewed the capital plan, and in August. And, so that's in our back pocket, ready for the budget, as we come to funding decisions. But really now the meat, when we started in July, the meat of the operating budget is now taking shape. So we have all the preliminary numbers in. Terry and myself will be reviewing the final numbers that were delivered by departments. We've met with them and doing all those things, but the month of September is really where the sausage gets made, so to speak. So that's what we're heavily involved in right now. The deliverable is November 1st, right? So we need to have a manager's recommended budget by Home Rule Charter November 1st. So when you back up from that, we really will have a final budget to deliver to the commission in early October. So that's coming here shortly. So that's what we're heavily involved in. So we should be getting a lot of final numbers here this month as well. Things that we wait for are pension, some pension information that comes in, health insurance, final renewal rates for those types of things. So those types of things we're waiting on right now. And as those come in, we kind of put it all together and decide. And then the manager, myself, Terry, and the assistant manager literally will sit at these tables. And we will start discussing funding decisions for 2025 to then deliver to the commission on November 1st. So just wanted to update you. That's what we're doing. You're more than welcome to, at some point, talk about how we got to that point. But obviously we haven't delivered that yet. But I imagine at future meetings, we may be discussing how that, process worked, and, any questions you may have, please feel free to bring them up as we move forward.
Are there any surprises that you've seen so far? Like you said, you wait for some of this information to come in, and you've seen it enough that you kind of know where it's supposed to be.
No, it was interesting. Before the meeting, we were talking, it was kind of same stuff, different year.
Yeah.
But there were things we knew were coming. One, we've talked about at this board level, which is the debt falling off. So that's present, in 25. In addition, we knew we had a pension payment, an amortization payment on our police pension plan that was falling off. So we knew that was coming for 25 as well. So while not surprises, it's something to discuss. And how do we do that? What do we do with that? What is the manager's decision to do that, to present to the commission on November 1st? So, but no, not a lot of big surprises. We try to avoid those. Those are no bueno. So
What about the health insurance? Is that number known yet?
it's not known yet. No, it's not yet known yet. So like, I'll give you an example. Last year, they started at 16% increase. We got them down to 7%. So we have a broker, we've had them for years, that goes and negotiates on our behalf. That's an expert in this. And they're familiar with our loss runs. They're familiar with our cases. They're familiar with us. They also act as our EAP program, to where when the employees need assistance with health insurance and deductibles and all those things. So they're very familiar with us, and it's been a nice partnership since 2014, since we've had them. And they really do a great job for us on that end. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see where it goes. So.
Okay, well, let's move back up to the commission liaison. Commissioner?
Well, she was only like 3 minutes late. Missed my second. Sorry about that.
Yeah. I
He was
late before it even began.
Yeah.
This was it, Tom Coughlin, if you were 15 minutes
Right,
early,
you're
you're
late.
late.
Sorry, we should get that synced up with this, because that did say 6 o'clock as everyone saw it. It's okay, I'm sorry.
Okay. This, from a commission standpoint, it's kind of the calm before the storm. As Andrew talked about, budget time's coming up, so there's a certain amount of, okay, we know there's some big ticket items we've talked about before, be it lights in the field or the south garage or what have you. But there's a certain amount of the agenda's been relatively short. As we're waiting for some of those items to percolate through. We get into budget season, there's gonna be a lot more meetings and decisions and that sort of thing, but it's kind of the quiet time right now for the most part, so.
For you.
Yeah, I'm like.
I heard a different story.
All right, I guess moving on to old business, which is still top of mind business, which is the fleet electrification. I know you sent out the list of vehicles today, which I thought it's interesting, just from an average age. For some reason, it was in my mind. I know you mentioned it, that they were there's active fleet management, but I was surprised that like the average age is really young.
Mhm.
And just seeing it on paper versus just hearing you describe it, so that was positive.
Yeah.
I guess it's hard to start thinking about replacing all of them. It's not a today problem, but it's I started thinking about the timeline myself, like, is this a 5-6 year thing, or is it really a 2 to 3 year thing? Because you got average age of what, like 22, 21, 19, 2021?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, sorry.
Yeah.
Not the people at the saloon, the average year the vehicles were built, so.
Yeah.
Public Works has older vehicles.
Yeah.
They're usually on a 10-year type rotation.
Yeah. Well, I remember the comment about some of the tractors that are they hold value so long, so some of those things work out. Are there any other thoughts or anything about that, given?
I kind of agree with you,
Yeah,
maybe looking at more of a longer term, because I know you said some of the vehicles are leased anyway. I know Public Works, last time you mentioned, is probably last on the list because of the heavy draw, the amount of utility, where it's more of the common use vehicles. With most of them being newer, that just gives us more time to get a concise plan, kind of get a consensus instead of saying, okay, by the end of the year, we got this figured out. Well, they may not need to replace for 3 or 4 years. So it's anytime you have more time to get more information, it's always positive. And if it keeps being positive information to go to electric, it just verifies that. So I saw the same thing as you saw.
The idea we're looking for the board to help us develop a structure of.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
back to, we don't have an answer right away or rush to have an answer. The idea is to create some, I'll say, decision model.
Yep.
Things we need to look at, things we need to calculate, that kind of thing. And we know from year to year, the cost of something, whatever the assumption we use today, maybe different 6 months from now, a year from now, at least if we can plug that into the spreadsheet, if you will.
Right.
And I think we could even take it one step further by those years that you gave us. Unless it's a heavy machinery, it's almost like, okay, there's 4 cars coming up that are 21s. And our lifespan's 5 years or 4 years normally. Okay, then the target for those 4 vehicles will be the best vehicle for those departments and plan to replace those 4 with electric from that standpoint, instead of the whole
Yeah.
fleet.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is like, we know that like, the manager vehicle goes to the chief and to somebody that's, everything keeps, it's kind of waterfall. But thinking about what the life of the vehicle that you replaced, so did you replace a 2018 with a 2021? Is it like the police vehicles, I mean, the ones that are on, the 6 vehicles that are on the road, turned on 24/7?
Yeah, that's usually an average life of 6,
Yeah.
whereas the manager's vehicle, we swap out at 12.
Yeah.
So you're already 2 manager vehicles
Yeah.
away at 12 years from when that's replaced.
Yeah.
Right, the original Beamer, so
Got it.
it cycles through the fleet and there's not many cars that are younger than 6 years that are swapped out,
Right.
you know.
And
It's
you
really
made a comment
only-
before too about some of the, like code enforcement, like not heavy use vehicles, maybe being the first ones. So that's not a bad place to start either.
Yeah, but the history with them has always been they get the 9-year-old vehicle. So.
No, that's, I mean, number of the oldest ones. but
Yes.
they-
This is the perk that they've been waiting on.
But yeah, you'll be the favorite.
Yeah, so.
I think if you compartmentalize it, I mean, I think we discussed last meeting that the police cars that are in use 24/7 are not really on the table.
Yeah,
Right, and there's probably another 7 or 8 police vehicles that are used frequently enough that until there's better reliability data, they're not on the table.
Yep.
The heavy duty trucks, public works, I don't think the technology's there yet, so they're not on the table. So I think you could probably reduce the fleet down by like 60 or 70%.
Yep.
And then I think, especially, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's a large number of people in the township that would like to see some electrification, right? The
Well,
feedback you're
we'd
getting,
like to, again, a plan.
right,
The idea is to say, all right, what are we looking at? What's the plan? How do we do this sort of thing?
right.
Not wanting to rush into it because, to the point you made earlier, do it right. The idea is still to say, well, we're thinking about, okay, we've got the idea in the 2025 CIP to say, to look to buy charging stations.
Right.
But the CIP is, I'll call it a goal-setting document. If 2025 becomes 2026, okay, at least we've thought about it, we're thinking about it. This is one of the goals to accomplish. And to see, we've got staff looking at the vehicles and saying, okay, we may not be able to think about electric because whatever, it's a dump truck, that kind of thing. It's trying to move this forward in a very thoughtful way. Things that have gone well, things that have gone poorly. So we're not trying to reinvent the wheel, if you're part of the cliche. So when we get to that point, we've hopefully made some good decisions.
I think there was that municipality that might have forwarded the information. In Indiana,
Yeah.
in, similar climate really too, so. And they, I think, got their first vehicle in 2019 and have since, I think, phased up. They have like 13 now, if I remember correctly. And they're realizing savings of roughly $80,000 a year with that switch. And they've been able to hire additional, I think, 1 or 2 officers, with that savings. What they've done, but might be interesting to, reach out to them and get, instead of reinventing the wheel to see, well, what have you realized? How did you phase it in? Like what?
I mean, you certainly learn what other people did. There is I get a little, say, cautious about the savings numbers. This going back a couple trash contracts and look at these folks in this community and all the money was saved. Well, it turned out they had like 3 different vendors. It was so poorly set up. The savings were kind of easy. And so I don't know what, kind of the before state was to the after state.
Yeah,
They had 6 Studebakers or something. I don't know what they had before, but
yeah.
that's where we're looking at that context to see, okay, what worked for them. And again, back to good or bad, that's putting all that stuff in the pot and see.
Well, the good part too, in a municipality, it's all public information. And we could get, if we even asked them, we can get that information to see
Is there,
what their fleet was
yeah, I
like.
mean, would there be any issue with that? Like, just somebody pick take that on and, hey, we're doing a project, we'd love to pick your brain. I mean, I just wanna make sure we're not getting off track.
That shouldn't, no, that should be just fine. No, if someone wants to take that ball, they're more than welcome.
Volunteer, okay, great, fantastic.
So I just want to chime in here, just kind of from a staff perspective. The staff perspective for what we heard the charge, and correct me if I'm wrong, from the commission levels, for this board to really set those parameters of evaluation. Make a recommendation as to what parameters we should be evaluating when a vehicle's up for replacement. So to your point, right, it's not tomorrow.
Yeah.
But when we look at a car, right, vehicle that is going to be coming before the commission, which one of our commissioners is very expressive when it comes up, like, we don't have a plan for what we do with the next car that's up for, well, I think that's what this charge is, right? Give us, as staff, your recommendation, review it with the commission, say, this is what we recommend you look at. Let staff, because I'm not a fleet expert, right? So it's my public works director, it's my police chief and fire chiefs that know their vehicles the best. So let them review what you guys would put together of saying, hey, these are the elements that I think you need to evaluate upon the next fleet replacement, right? And then go from there, right? So, and then evaluate, and then have a working document to say, okay, every time it comes, this is what I'm hearing is the charge, is that every time it comes before the commission, they would then be able to say, did you evaluate it per the recommendations of the financial management board? Versus this document or this vehicle that you have coming up.
Then we get questions to ask if there's a spreadsheet, and again, back to being a dynamic document. Because that which we say it's based on X dollars per whatever today could change. Well, again, a spreadsheet, you're just plugging and playing if you put the different number in there. But starting with that, call it decision tree. And so that's what we're looking for. There's a certain amount, what do we ask? Well, that's part of the group to say, think about this, think about that. That's back to the good and bad. Like, remember to ask about the warranty. I'm pulling something out of the air, but I mean, it's those sorts of things of, okay, those are issues you've got to make sure, or you have X number of repair people and staff or whatever. That's the guidance.
Yeah.
Then we're looking
And that
at
data from the current vehicles, are we able to get that from you or from each department? Because I'm sure there's a system you get to have in place, like the police say, at this time, at this period, we're replacing a vehicle.
Correct.
So you're asking us to go to each department, you guys already have that data?
No, we have that data. So we're saying like crafting the shell of what are we looking at? Right? So examples in my mind that come down to what is the current fuel efficiencies? What's the cost of the infrastructure if not in place? How many would we need? What's the time horizon? So like we have, correct me if I'm wrong, how many Peterbilts do we have? 6?
Yes.
Right? So I think of like a Peterbilt, well, that might be, first question is that available in electric? The answer is no, right? The newest ones are 10 years, or 5 years old that they've built. Well, if that's not available, then the decision's over, right? But if you start moving down the decision tree, as Commissioner Silverman said, then what's that framework of what we're looking at? And then we start saying, okay, how realistic is that in getting the buy-in from not only the commission, right? Because we're recommending something to them, but then also buy-in from staff. Because I think the other things one of the things Commissioner Silverman touched on, and I'll add to, not only infrastructure, but also the mechanic, servicing side. We have no experience in that at all. I will tell you that the Chevy Bolt we've had, the only works that we've had to do are warranty work. Right? It's been recalls. Other than that, we were some tires and we really haven't touched the vehicle. So yeah, there's been a good history, but it's a tiny little vehicle, right? It's not a big use truck. It's not a big use cruiser that's, so on and so forth. So I think that's what is being asked of this board, is that shell and framework to then, how you, within those various factors and elements, how you analyze those things, we can get into, but I think we need to start at least at that shell to know what those elements would be.
We also have to look into rotation cycles because of the fact that the way we rotate vehicles throughout the municipality, a lot of them start at the police department. And if police feel that these vehicles aren't satisfactory for what they're doing, then we have to figure out the rotation somewhere else where these police vehicles were going, you know, because maybe the manager's vehicle and the director of public works could be electric, that we'd have to change our rotations.
Right.
I think it goes back to his study too from the department in Indiana.
Yeah,
That's been using them and
Right.
said same climate and had no problems with it, from what you could see, so at
Right.
least they have somebody else.
so
like you
that'd
said,
be good
that-
empirical data for
And,
everyone.
and it's probably putting a cart way before the horse. If we do any electric, do we look to monetize the charging stations or keep it simple? Like, is there 2 chargers at Public Works? Or do we pick like the top parking lot of the park, kind of like Giant Eagle did out here?
Mhm.
There's 12 chargers, they get a cut of each time every somebody charges.
Mhm.
So then you have, that is another way for the electric people in the community. Say, I go down to the park, charge my car when I'm there. But then the municipality monetizes that because we make a fee off of it.
Yeah.
So we gotta put in chargers anyway. Is that something that we look at too?
Yes, the answer to that is yes.
Where does municipal fleet currently park? So say that again, the municipal passenger fleet, we'll call it.
Yes.
Do they park in the garage? They park all over Mount Lebanon? Is it spread out or?
It's typically at their location based, so police station, fire station, Public Works has all their down at their yard. That's primarily where the fleet is.
Parking's in the. parking
Yeah, we have 2
garage.
parking vehicles up here on the ramp right out here, right outside here. You have the Public Works Director parks there and our inspection vehicles parked there.
So Stacy, there's no centralized, I guess, infrastructure.
No,
charging of-
no. But I'll give you an example, like Churchill, for instance, they got a grant to put a charging station that's also public access, but also for municipal as well. So like, but the 2 charging stations we do have in town that we run, we have the ability to do that as well. We just don't do it because we don't have them. But like, we could go to the one that's here in the south garage, park our municipal vehicle, get a special card that says, hey, this is no fee, charge a municipal card, but everybody else that comes up to it can also use it, but they're paying a fee. So we could do that, and that's why my answer to you is yes, we would absolutely look at that. That makes.
But I mean, like anywhere like Rec
Right.
Center, anywhere, there's all those parking spots.
Right.
You put a slew of them there and people could charge them, but
Right.
once again, we could pay back the money after so much time
Right.
of paying for the charging stations.
Yes.
And there's a demand for it, so.
And in the CIP, at least initially looking at 2 of the 3 locations are, I'd say, less likely of that, because the Public Works Yard, you know, down by the police and fire station, but also we talked about the academy lots. So I mean, you know, there's a possibility there.
I'm gonna throw things out here, but if we ever developed, or if we ever put lights in at Middle Field, right, at Wildcat, or now Clint Seymour Field, right, if you're digging all that up, could you put them in that parking lot right there, right? That could be a potential location. If we ever did anything with McNeely Field, if you're digging it all up, could you put them, so I don't, to your point, at some point, that will be a discussion with every development project that is municipal property based. So I think that we've had success, and I think they're coming in the academy lot. I don't think it's long before we put it in the academy lot, and where we can, so.
And a question, I throw out the question, I don't know the answer. As we talked about, we tend to buy vehicles and drive them into the ground. You know, I don't know what the lifespan is of electric vehicles, and I realize it's a relatively newer industry. And if the industry knows yet, but I mean, just, back to it may not be a question we have to answer yet because that vehicle's out for rotation for 4 years or something. But to factor that in, because it may be the dealer says, yeah, we can only warranty these things for 10 years or something. Well, if we're used to having a 12-year or 14-year cycle through with the vehicles, okay, that's a factor as well, that, you know, we're using a shorter cycle time with these.
That's a good part of them having the newer fleet now, because that buys us 3 or 4 more years of data before we make that decision.
Does the city mix brands in the current vehicle? Is everything GM? Is everything Chevy? Is everything Buick?
They're a little bit of everything.
So the question would be on the electric side. Would it be the same sort of way? Would it be looking, because these have slightly different technologies and, you know, brand A ain't the same as brand B. Some of them are domestically produced, some of them are internationally produced.
Sure.
Have we put any thought in that? Are we
No.
willing?
Not that I have, but I think when we get to that point, I mean, I think that's a valid point. I will tell you from the history of Mount Lebanon, Terry has much more of it than I do with Fleet. But in other municipalities, you kind of get into those that are on the collectively bid contracts that keep winning them over and over and over again. And then the upfits for a long time were transferable. So you stuck with them because one Ford to another Ford, you could transfer the Fleet interior guts. Every now and then they change enough that it becomes expensive and you start changing over your fleet. But here it's generally been pretty successful with the GM, Chevy products and Ford products. We have had Dodges, we've had, you name them, yeah, so.
So Buy American requirement for Mount Lebanon to buy.
It's generally, it's a collective, it's a bid requirement. So who's bidding on it, right? Like you see in movies, right? The police are driving around in Mercedes Benz and Beamers in Europe. Well, I don't think Mercedes and, BMW or maybe other lines are bidding in a collective bid agreement for these types of vehicles. So that's really where we come into play. It's bid requirements as to really why we get to that point. Is who's bidding against those vehicles.
Who's driving the Maserati?
Yeah.
I help recruiting policemen though.
Yeah, so.
Well, I would think too, just like with the police vehicles, they specialize in them, so I'm thinking back to the electric ones, like once again, back to his study from that Indiana Police Department. There was probably something already, a model in place, I'm sure there's not many to choose from.
Right.
Because I think we're probably gonna be stuck with one or the other.
I think they were all Teslas and that's.
Yeah.
And even gas powered at this time, there's only a few,
Right.
I know we're talking specifically police a lot here, but the police models, which looks like they look like Explorers, but they're a specialized, they're called a Ford Interceptor. They're a specialized police vehicle. They're not your off the market Explorer.
Fun to drive.
They look like it. What, they are?
They're fun to ride in, they're fun to drive.
I've never ridden in one,
That's
just saying, Yeah. Funny anecdote, I sat in the front seat at one time and the police officer said, if we have to go, I said, I will jump out of this vehicle if you turn the lights on, I'm out. But, so they're specialized. So I think to your point, there's going to be a specialization when it comes to municipal service vehicles. And I think it's already happening probably in the fire truck industry. We're already seeing, large fire trucks in California and those types of things go electric. But they're already having their issues. But I imagine once those issues do get figured out, there will be a potential for those. But I think it's going to become very specialized that not many people are gonna be selling specialized for all the equipment that is needed for police and fire, so.
There's a certain amount of this is a blank piece of paper, so, these questions, are the things we need to worry about to say, well, the folks who work on Teslas are a different bunch of mechanics that work on, pick something else. I don't know, and that's where, again, back to educating us to say, is that a question? The answer may be no. That's how much of collecting data, again, back to the decision tree of going. And some of this is just education back, as well, what are the decision points?
I recall the issue of range for police cars coming up as a critical factor.
Cause a lot of times too, they're idle in range. You're over 300 miles.
Police officer has to go 100 miles in Mount Lebanon to respond to something or something wrong.
Well, that's
It'd
right.
be very difficult.
Yes.
Yes, and, but, are there reciprocal agreements that we have with other authorities which require us to participate, like with the county, with the
Mutual aid,
state?
yeah, yes, the answer to that is
And-
yes.
Would our if we move in this direction, would it be consistent with those? So I'm offering, that's another thing to look at. Do the ranges, do the capacities of these meet the agreements we have in place with other authorities?
So I'm gonna make a suggestion. So I say we throw a document out there and start handling elements, right? So you start subcategorizing and just kind of get a document out there together that we can all share. That we can start throwing things together, right? So if you want to break off your own section, but make it yours. You know, but we can start collecting that document and then maybe next meeting, we can start forming those together and seeing where within the elements we need to break down. And those types of things, like what more analysis do we need? Or are these just general questions that need to be asked? So that, you know, if the next meeting, when we discuss that, we can take it back to our, you know, staff, you know, those types of things.
Yeah, you definitely start brainstorming those questions. So when you mention this, I'm thinking, well, yeah, sometimes they have to go downtown with the suspect. So it's not just 6 square miles that is Mount Lebanon. How much are they're called to say, hey, you know, helping with something in Bethel Park or Upper St. Clair or whatever. And that's where.
But I wanna express that I don't think we're getting that granular with this.
Well, my question, I don't want like, you know, brainstorming session.
Yeah.
Throw it all out there, get the things on the piece of paper. It may turn out, it's like, well, that's too granular, or the chief may go, I can answer that in 3 sentences. I don't know. I just don't want to discourage the questions. Because as I said, it's a blank piece of paper. Maybe we just don't know what questions to ask, you know, and so that's like, you know, start with
You
questions.
come back and say, we don't drive more than 100 miles in a day, ever.
And procedure is also.
Part of it's not just the driving, it's the idling.
Right.
Sure.
Right,
You know,
Sure.
so it's not, you know, it's gotta be on and idling and, you know, available, even if it doesn't go that many miles, so.
Okay, so I'll throw out that document so we can start frameworking and doing that, and we can start drafting that. Maybe Jason, you and I, week before next meeting, we can kind of get together, see where we're at on that, and game plan for the next meeting for that purpose. The community in Indiana, someone want to volunteer to reach out to them?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I think that should only serve a purpose there. See if they have any documentation, any policies they put in place, those types of things. We can use those as examples.
Might be worth asking them if they talked to anybody before they did it.
Yeah, true. So we can go from there, but we can start at least getting something on paper to discuss. So I think the hypothesizing in a U-shaped form has come to an end. Let's put some stuff on paper.
Can I ask one last question?
Of course.
So Public Works, let's put them off in their own silo. How many of the other vehicles that the township buys go through the police department? Is it like 90%?
Yes, if not more.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, so I mean, if chief says, I don't want electric vehicles, we can make it a really short conversation.
I don't think it's all back to infrastructure. So again, that's why I think once the infrastructure at some point is gonna come up. And it's gonna say, put up or shut up, right? It's either put it in or this is all moved, right? But that being said, I think we can at least have that evaluation now. And have it ready for them so that as we get infrastructure discussions going and we get service discussions going in earnest to where we're ready to say yes, yay or nay, that we're moving that and doing that. I think this will serve well to have that ready.
And to your question, we just did have a discussion about police chief's vehicle. And it was not, I mean, certainly, we're asking the chief, you know, what works, but ultimately, we're writing the check.
Right.
And so looking and saying, okay, what's available, what's it cost, you know, that sort of thing. So I don't think it's so much of one department head saying, I don't want that. We're like, well, let's do the analysis, what's out there, and justify it to say, that doesn't work for us because it's a fire truck, it's great. The problem is that only works if it's always above 60 degrees.
Right.
And I'm pulling it out here, you know, so that's where back to the metrics that we have to say, so it's not personal, it's just, here's the format.
I sent around a spreadsheet earlier today, interesting read to take a look at, some foundations sort of put together. That spreadsheet almost already, so we can probably plug some of that fleet information in there and see what that spits out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I know there was a couple of things that went today or maybe yesterday, just in the interest of having time to review them. I think, yeah, if we do something in the next 2-3 weeks, so that we have a week at a time, so everybody can say, oh, I can react to that or whatever, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's, having been on the receiving end of.
I know.
No, I'm seriously, I'll get something from a resident at 5 o'clock on a commission meeting, what, like, I didn't look at your email until 5 hours after the commission meeting ended because of so the idea is, yes, if we could get that stuff, let's say, at least a week before, so we all have a chance to review it. And we're just better briefed, before coming to the meetings. So I agree.
Anything else to address on this one today? Okay, next topic, Andrew, was the pension plan review
Yeah.
subcommittee.
Yeah, so in May, we had our first financial or the pension advisor come in and speak to you. It should have happened in August. I said, I don't think we're ready. I don't think we need to belabor that here. But I think we do need to assign a subcommittee to meet in a Zoom format. Not requiring any more coming to the municipal building, that sort of thing. We would do it during the day. It wouldn't be an evening format, maybe a lunchtime or a 9 a.m., whatever makes sense, 8 a.m.
Not too early for retirees.
No, okay.
Well, I mean, what time do you do?
But I do think we need to spin that back up and make sure that November's pension plan review is there for the third quarter results. Think about it. It doesn't have to be decided tonight, but anybody that would like to volunteer for that, just, okay, awesome.
The usual suspects from the first meeting who had the most pointed questions.
Yes, yeah.
Just, and maybe make it available if anybody else wants to, but I'd set.
We can't go over
Right.
4, so it can only be, so I was planning on offering it to 4, but hopefully 3 can show up for every review.
Yeah.
So we have a backup. If all 4 attend, of course, great, but try and get a 3, at least 3 for a review with the plan advisor. Then the idea would be probably a week before our meeting in November, that would take place thereabouts. Then you can report any results then there at the meeting for that. So just have the committee members, the subcommittee members report at this meeting.
Okay. Again, like I asked before, any surprises, anything new, it's just steady as she goes.
Steady as she goes, steady as she goes.
Question, do you ever look at the advisor periodically and assess other options?
Yes, so we did in 2015.
15, okay.
Yes, in 2015 we did. It's probably not far off that we need to do it again. We did a review in 21 with the Pension Investment Advisory Board, because we were at the 5-year mark. And they recommended to remain with PFM. It was more of a, consensus of the board. I don't know if there was any formal action. If you look, I'd have to go back and check the minutes, but I don't believe it was a formal action, but there was like, don't waste your time. I think we're good. Let's just continue on doing what we do. So we would be at another 5-year checkpoint here next year. We're more than happy to discuss that. Due to pension laws, we do have to go out for a formal RFP process. Last time we had 9 respondents. We're a big municipal pension plan. We're 120 million, big for our size, and we're flush. Meaning we fund it.
Everybody wants it.
Yeah, we're a good feather to have in your cap for sure. We are frequently called about bids that they're then doing on other clients. And rightfully so, they do a good job for us, but it doesn't mean they can't be looked at either. They were the incumbent at that time, but they were in a different model at the time when we did it in 2015. They still won it based on their methodology. And the results, right? It wasn't that's because they were just the incumbent. We didn't want to switch anything. That wasn't the issue. It was, hey, we like their methodology. We like who we're getting. We like the support, the staff, and they've lived up to that. They really have, but I'm not opposed to ever looking at that at any point. So reach out to me if anybody else would like to join that committee, please reach out. We'll discuss it again in October, at the October meeting to set that. And then we'll start getting that meeting set up for early November.
If you have only 2 volunteers and need 4, you may have to find some volunteers.
I know that type of.
Volunteer.
Yeah.
I'll tell, yes. So make sure you show up at the October meeting.
Right.
Because if you don't, you're in.
I already had some names written down, I'll scratch those. Hey, you're present. Okay, any other new business to discuss today? Anything else we need to bring for the good of the order?
Just a question, you mentioned 2 meetings ago about starting the, exploration of private garbage collection. When do we want to start groundworking that?
It's up to you as the board.
That will take time.
Yes.
Well, and I think, I guess from a timing perspective, ultimately, doesn't that have a more immediate need potentially than, I mean, that's gonna come up, there will be a time to make a decision before the full electrification of.
Correct.
My suggestion is that, given the number of people at the board to say, if half the board members are gonna be designated to focus on fleet electrification, then the other half, let's say, focusing on the trash collection project.
I'm interested in trash.
There you, I love it.
In theory, you could also be interested in EVs and trash. right?
Question, with the current collection,
Super.
particularly with recycling, does the municipality get income from the aluminum, the metal?
No.
That just the company gets in, so that'd be a revenue source, I guess, a gain source.
You figure the whole, tortured whatever of even talking about, okay, cost of recycling versus. And that's gonna be almost a whole presentation, is for the group to say.
Recycling, particularly residential, is kind of virtue signal.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's.
It'd be good for the group to kind of hear the pain points and say, here's what, because there are things we, as commission, we said, we want to do X, and we start looking at the numbers going, ouch. So at least the group should be aware of it. That's obviously one reason why the thought was, well, if this is what the haulers charge for this, is it more advantageous for Mount Lebanon to invest in the trucks and so forth? And the answer may be no, but that's why you get that big a spend, we should at least be exploring options.
Commissioner Flynn has raised his hand.
Oh, right. Mr. Flynn was
I will allow
online.
you to talk, sir. You're on. You there?
Hi, everybody. Yes, I'm here. I just want to express that I'm interested in the trash conversation as well. So if there is a subcommittee that stands up on the topic, I would look forward to at least coming in and having a conversation about it, because I'm working at it on the issue at a regional level with multiple municipalities and talking about different, frameworks that can be utilized. And I think if for no other purpose than to inform some of your efforts, I think it would be good for me to come in and at least have a conversation on it.
Sounds good.
So just to give a little background and history to some trash collection topics that we've talked about, I sat on the ad hoc Pay As You Throw committee back in 2014, which was a whole ball of fun. But we ended up getting a really good document together that really expressed all the costs. Now, it was not us doing it internally, right? It was the contractor doing it, them being Republic or Waste Management, and both of them could do it, right? So it is a fruitful conversation to say, hey, we've at least looked at something else. We ultimately obviously didn't decide to go with the pay-as-you-throw model, but a resident brought it up. It came from a resident inquiry, and we put a committee together and we dove into it big time. For good or for bad, it was a great conversation, and we did a lot of work on it to get it to a point to say, it's not for us, but it was done, and I thought it was done respectfully, so.
And some of the numbers since then, like the cost of recycling, where it was, you go back at the beginning, it's like, oh, great. And, we'll pay you to take the recycling. That's not the world we're in right now. We'll
Those
see
are
what things
factors
come
you
back.
gotta consider, that's correct.
Yeah.
So this has been done and I think it is worthwhile to do, and I think the commission would like to see that as well, so.
So the document's available?
For the pay as you throw, I'll have to dig it out, but I can. Might have to dig it out.
You came up with 2014 pretty quick.
Yeah.
That must have
I just started.
stirred your brain.
I just started, so yes, I remember this. I was like, is this what I'm in for every year? So, man.
I assume we have the same meeting requirements, meeting concerns if we have a subgroup.
Yes.
With the commissioner as well.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
With the commissioner, no, the commissioner could be there, but it's gonna
Commissioner could
be,
be
it
there.
can only be 4 from this
Okay, so
board.
3 to 4 of this plus Commissioner Flynn. Okay.
Commissioner Flynn, can be Commissioner
Just
Silverman,
making sure.
myself.
Got it.
I'm not offering that, but it could be.
You're in.
It's commission, we're ex officio.
Got it.
so
I just want to be, I want to be
members
clear.
don't-
Thank you. Just so you said.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. All right. That sounds good.
But we can't have 3 commissioners in the room. That
No,
creates
it's
a
not, I
whole other
understand. I mean, do you want to talk about wants to volunteer to take that on? I mean, obviously, we've got our interest in some, the pension piece. Do we want to maybe have 3 different subgroups, pension, trash, and electrification?
I'll do trash.
Trash.
I like the trash too.
All right.
I like it.
What does it say about the trash?
It's something you touch every week.
Trash and electric.
That was in case
A
you
lot
asked
of
me to.
experience taking out.
Yes, we can, we can switch it out. I just want to, but I think it's good to know so we can, I have a question, reach out to the right people.
Right.
And then from maybe the pension piece, obviously, okay. Anybody else who's interested in that part? Anybody need to go to sleep? Okay, all right.
And we can start with 2. I mean, it's not like it's a requirement to be
Exactly.
4. I mean, 2 that are interested, I think
That's what they do for a living,
Yeah.
so I think those were I remember the point of questions.
Yeah.
Back in the day, it was 3 because frequently one would not be able to
Right,
show up.
right.
So.
2 is fine. I'm not worried about that. Actually easier to
That's true.
herd everybody together.
That is true.
Fleet electrification. Any specific, I mean, obviously. Sure. Okay, great. Fantastic. So let's start with that group and we can add and subtract as we need.
So on the per the guidelines of what they would like us to do is to save every work product on the SharePoint site. So I'll start creating files for you. You guys can upload and share from there and do all that. So any documentation, please create subfolders and all that stuff. We'll create some initial folders and go from there.
Any other issues with those? Okay. All right, I know we have the next meeting Wednesday, October 9th at 6, so we'll have the RSVP. When will that'll come out, like a week or 2?
Yeah, it's on autopilot. I don't know what day I sent it
I know,
for.
actually, it's in, okay. All right,
I
good.
sent it, yeah, it's on autopilot.
Okay.
I think the first one's 2 weeks before,
Yeah,
and then you get another one.
yeah. Sometimes I.
Oh, is that what I did?
Yeah.
I don't know if I did it the first time.
I do it all with Power Automate, so I don't have to remember it, and it just sends it to you, so. It reminds me to change the dates, and then it sends you an email whatever a week after that, so.
Mr. Flynn, I appreciate your joining. So we'll reach out to you guys about the follow-up on the trash.
I look forward to it.
Well, any other business?
Dig in the trash.
Yeah, right, we'll start digging in the trash. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, motion seconded, all in favor? All opposed?
Yes, you see, let's vote it down.
You never know, somebody, there's always a first time.